I can accomplish more by, I try and use the tools that are available to me to create leverage for myself so that I don't have to spend hours on the phone. And again, I'm training people as I'm training them. I'm training them how to handle their people so that they don't have to spend, when somebody comes to me and they say, I just spent 2 hours on the phone with my new distributor trying to answer their questions. I'm like, what are you doing? Most of the questions that new distributors ask are not relevant anyway. It's not that they're not good questions, they're important questions. They may be important to that person, but when I say they're not relevant, they have no bearing. Most of the questions that get asked have no bearing on whether somebody's going to be successful or not. But yet the new distributor that signs up their first distributor, their second distributor, they'll spend hours on the phone with their new people trying to answer these questions that really will not make a difference whether they be successful or not, whether they become successful or not. So what I do is I focus them in on the information that will allow them to be successful. And I'm not mean to them. I'm compassionate and interested and let them know that they're going to have all their questions answered, but I point them in the direction that will serve them. When somebody's getting started, they need to be able to do a couple of things. They need to be able to present their opportunity, they need to be able to sign up a distributor, and they need to be able to sign up a customer. And that's pretty much it. So if they're asking me questions, the questions need to be targeted to, you want to get answers to the relevant questions, the ones that are going to really make a difference. So I'm always pointing people in the direction where they're going to find their answers. So if there's a really good network marketing book out there that I think could really benefit somebody, I'm going to point them towards that and have them read that while they're doing the basic fundamental business building activities like showing their plan or showing the business opportunity or showing a DVD or a video, and then getting their upline on the phone to answer questions for that new potential distributor.
There's a term that I learned from Orrin Woodward, and he calls it rotating the pattern. And I don't know if it's an Orrin original or not. He's got a lot of originals, but the rotating the pattern is basically within your own company, within your own organization, find what is that pattern that you want to rotate in depth. So once they learn this pattern, then they can go and do that themselves, and then the next person can do it, and your job is to just make sure that at the bottom of your team that pattern is still rotating. For example, presenting the opportunity, signing up distributors, signing up customers. That could be the pattern. Those are three areas. What else are you covering with a new person? You're saying, okay, let me get them out the door, to get them out of the nest. We said presenting opportunity, sign up a customer, sign up a distributor. Anything else in there that you find, I got to make sure that they know how to do this before I let them fly?
Yeah, this is an important distinction that you're bringing up here, Art. Let me just say this. If you were to talk to 10 top money earners in 10 different companies, the answer to this question, there would be a pattern there, a thread of commonality, but you're going to get some very, very different answers. I like to keep my basic training for a new distributor very short and very simple. I need them to, and all of you are involved in different types of companies. Some of you are involved in health product companies. Some of you are involved in legal services. Some of you might be involved in telecom, different types of products out there. I want them to, use the product and explain the product. Okay, that's the first thing. So my initial training, I want to make sure they're really comfortable with that. And then the second thing I want them to be able to do is to be able to create exposures. The basics of creating exposures, like making their list and being able to introduce their opportunity or their product to a potential distributor. And in the process of doing that, they're also making their list. So that's what I'm talking to them about on the initial phone call, and it only really lasts for less than an hour. It's usually 45 minutes long. Then what I do is I plug them into the system. And the system involves a weekly conference call that's a training call that, in my case, I do a weekly 30-minute strategy call. It's different each week that teaches people the ins and outs of the business. Sometimes it involves leadership. We do some recognition on the call, that kind of stuff. And I archive those, so they're on my website. I don't need to manage it. Once it's recorded, it's on the website. They can go there and they can listen to the call so that as new people come in, they have all those archived calls that they can go in and listen to. So the initial training, I want it to be something that everyone can do. A brand new distributor can sign up today, they can sign up a new distributor, and immediately they can get that new distributor started. And so we have a fast start guide that helps them with that the company provides, our company provides. So, but it's the basics. It's the basics of making a list. It's the same basics that you read in every network marketing book. the basics of making a list, how to make the initial contact, how to be passionate about the product by using the product. And so it's those simple things. Now, the more advanced training, and this is where I think a lot of people get into a trap, is they've been around their company for a few weeks, a few months, or even a few years, and they're trying to teach their brand new distributor everything that they've learned in the past 2 years on their first phone call or in their first training. Everybody has a system, right? There's either conference calls, training conference calls with your company, which I highly recommend. There's events that you can bring people to. Let that system do the work for you. I always say that you can get more accomplished in a 2-day seminar that's done by your company or by your upline leadership than you can trying to motivate your people for the next 6 months to a year. You can get more done in a 2-day event than you can trying to prop up and motivate and inspire yourself, your new distributors. So just get them to those events. That's the system that I'm talking about. If I can plug people in and encourage them to attend the events and attend the seminars and attend the conference calls, then that's work that I don't have to do. The system does the work for me. It's the group, it's the collective energy of the group that will help to maintain the level of enthusiasm that each person needs to be successful. And then you know what? The reality is people get sidetracked. Some people never make it through high school. Some people never go to college. Some people quit college. Some people quit high school. Some people never go to school at all. Some people go on to graduate school and become PhDs. That's how it is in network marketing. It's no different. So some people are going to graduate to the highest positions in your company, and other people are going to drop out. Just the nature of it. So rather than taking on all the stress and the responsibility for the success of each and every person in your group, you want to be a stand for each person in the group. You want to create an opportunity or an opening for each person in the group. You don't want to take responsibility for their success, because if you do, you'll burn yourself out.
The idea that it sounds so simple. Like part of me, even today, and I know this is exactly how it works. I know it to my core, but it just sounds so simple that when you're listening to this, and maybe you've got a group of 10 or 20 or 25, or maybe you've been going at it for a year, or maybe you're at the point where you are a 60, 80-hour week with a group of 1,000, and you're calling into this call saying, I'm going to get that golden nugget, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, gosh, Jordan just told me, this is it's the simple activities compounded over time, duplicated over time, that leads me to success. Can it really be that? And you think of a McDonald's franchise. He started that, and he found one that worked on the one corner of Chicago. And once that prototype worked, he could open it up on the other side of Chicago, and then he could open it up in Houston, and then he could open it up anywhere. It's a matter of repeat. Once you find a prototype that works, once you find a model that works, once you find something that you know is going to create an exact result every single time. So what I'm hearing here is that in our profession, we've got the law of numbers. That pattern that has to repeat has to be a simple pattern. Otherwise, it won't.
Absolutely. In fact, Ray Kroc passed away a number of years ago, and as far as I know, McDonald's is still going. And he doesn't have a lot of involvement other than the legacy of his name. He really he's not working too hard every day as far as I know, but yet McDonald's is still going and it's still generating revenue. Well, that's the philosophy and the mindset you want to have for your network marketing business. Think about it.
But in our business, you look at McDonald's and you still say, yeah, for a business it's basic, but it's still complicated. You still got a lot of stuff. And what you've nailed it down to is not that, really something you could learn if you really wanted to in a week.
Well, hey, listen, if teenagers can produce, because, think about it, most of the people working, including the management, most of the people working in McDonald's are teenagers. They're 18, 19, 20 years old, and they're out there running a billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company. So if they can learn it, it must be relatively simple, I would imagine, and they're not getting paid a lot of money to do it. It's just the system that's in place. They're getting paid minimum wage to do it. Mm-hmm. So I want to just throw one more thing at you. There is a place, and everybody goes through this. It's I don't even know what you'd call it. We got to come up with a name for this, Art. Maybe one of you guys that are listening on the call could think of a name for it. But there's a point where your group starts to grow, and you do get busier, and you get busier and busier and busier because your group's growing very rapidly. And as your group's growing, they do have a need to connect. There is a need for them to connect with you, and then your job is to wean them off you. And that sometimes takes a little bit of time. So there's like a transition that occurs where you've got your hands in it every day, and it seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then as you're training people and they're becoming more proficient and competent and confident and knowledgeable, then eventually they don't need you as much. So, for example, if I were to go out and sponsor 10 people in the next 30 to 60 days, I would get very, very busy for the next 3 months. I would be very busy but my objective is to wean them off me quickly. So for the next couple of months, I would be busy because they'd be calling me with a lot of questions because I just got some new people started, right? And they're going to call. Does that make sense, Art, what I'm saying?
It does, and it was actually one of the questions that I had on my list was, let's go back to that group of 20, right? If you're really just looking to burn, then 20. But I want to make sure everybody understands that when I mentioned the 20, and I adjust this very much similar way, is that those 20, a huge chunk of them are ones that you just recently sponsored. So, for example, I just opened up a leg in North Carolina, and all of a sudden that leg consists of 6 of my 20. And it's a brand new leg. It's only 2 weeks old, right? And so the question after that was, okay, so now we're working, you sponsored your 10. You're working with them. You're teaching them the basics, rotating the pattern. They've learned it. And now how do you wean them off? How do you let go without being harsh? What is your verbiage that you have to tell me and say, if I keep calling you and you know that now I'm just hanging on, what do you tell me?
Well, it's different for everyone. It really is. And it's almost like you have to use a judgment call at some point. There's certain people that you see, they're hungry and they're calling you with great questions. They're asking you real good questions. I really look for people that are calling me. I want people to call me when they first get started. I want them to call me a lot because that shows me they're really interested in the beginning, right? And then I also want people that are showing up. In other words, they're the type of person that books themselves for an event or for the conference, and I didn't have to remind them to do it. They're that hungry that they're going to do that on their own. The third thing I look for is that they're doing something. So they're out there actually, even if they're fumbling through it, they're out there talking to people about their business. They're showing the DVD to people. They're even attempting to give a business presentation on their own. Those individuals are people that I really want to be heavily involved in the early stages. I want them to be introducing me to people that they're introducing to the business. Now, what's my goal? My goal is to get them self-sufficient very, very, very quickly. So what happens is I'll become less and less available to them as they gain a little bit more experience, usually within a matter of a couple of weeks. If they're really active in the business, usually within a matter of a couple of weeks, I'm going to be a little bit less available.
So what does that look like? Does that look like you're ignoring their phone calls? What does that look like?